Welcome to teachmeall.com. In this video, we're going to show you how to change a front wheel stud on this 2000 Toyota Sienna LE.
That's right, you got to be careful. Make sure you torque those wheel studs to the proper specifications. If you over tighten them, there's potential that you could snap that thing on and have to replace it.
So now we're going to go over the tools that we used to do this job.
Jack, one jack stand, not two wheel chocks, some thread lock, some anti-seize lubricant, a punch possibly, a new wheel stud and lug nut, a large hammer, some hose pinch pliers, a large C-clamp, a standard screwdriver, a 20mm socket and ratchet for the lug nuts, a 14mm socket for the caliper guide pin bolts, and a 17mm socket for the caliper mounting bracket bolts and the ratchet. Here we're showing a box end open end 18mm wrench, but we'll actually need a thin wrench, and we'll show you that in a few seconds. We need a torque wrench, a bungee cord, a brake bleeder kit, some safety glasses, some shop towels, a 5/16 box end wrench, and here's our 18mm thin wrench to hold the guide pin bolt. First we set our emergency brake, then put the wheel chocks behind both rear tires. Then we're going to remove our hubcap. Be careful not to break it. Then we use our 20mm socket and ratchet to loosen up the lug nuts. Then we're going to raise up the vehicle. We place the jack under this cross member in the front of the vehicle, but we're only going to put a jack stand on one side. With the vehicle off the ground, we'll insert our jack stand and lower the vehicle back onto the ground. Then we're going to go ahead and remove our lug nuts. Then we remove our wheel, place the lug nuts in the hubcap, and roll it up under the vehicle for safety and convenience. Here are our two broken wheel studs. Then we're going to turn the wheels to the passenger side, and we're going to remove our caliper. And here are the bolt locations. This is for the caliper guide pin bolts. These are for the caliper mounting bracket bolts. This is your bleeder screw with a dust cover. This is the bleeder screw without the dust cover. Then we're going to use a hose pinch pliers to pinch the brake line to keep any debris from going back up in the braking system. We're going to remove the dust cover off the bleeder screw, place our 5/16 wrench over the bleeder screw, and attach our brake bleeder kit. Then we're going to use a large C-clamp. We're going to use this to compress the piston inside the caliper a little bit in order to remove the caliper and brake pads from the rotor. Then we open up the bleeder screw. And we compress the piston. Then we're going to close the bleeder screw, remove our brake bleeder kit, remove our wrench, and we install our dust cover to keep up with it. Then we're going to remove our caliper guide pin bolts. This caliper guide pin is pretty loose because we'd already removed it earlier. Yours will be much tighter than this. Then we're going to remove our lower caliper guide pin bolts. This one's quite a bit tighter. With both caliper guide pin bolts removed, we will slide the caliper off the rotor and the brake pads, and we'll tie it up using our bungee cord. Then we're going to slide our brake pads out. And then we're going to remove our caliper mounting bracket. We're going to remove our rotor. And here's our broken wheel studs. First, we need to put the van into neutral. Then we'll turn the axle to where the wheel stud, the broken wheel stud we want to remove, is lined up with this indentation behind the axle. Now we're going to use our hammer. Be careful to only hit the wheel stud and knock it right out. Now we're going to rotate it around again, and we're going to use a hammer to kind of get it started. Since this one's broke off so flush, we're going to need to use our punch to go ahead and drive it out the rest of the way. Now, here's our two new wheel studs. We're going to coat the threaded part here that goes into the axle with some anti-seize lubricant. You could also probably use some wheel bearing grease instead of the anti-seize lubricant. Now, with it lined up, we slide it through the indentation behind the axle. We get the wheel stud into place best we can. And then we're going to use the lug nut. We're going to turn around backwards. The flat part is touching the axle flange. And run the nut up against the axle. And then we're going to put the vehicle back into park. Using our 20mm socket and ratchet, we're going to slowly tighten up the lug nut, and this will pull the wheel stud into place. Now when the head of the wheel stud is flush against the axle flange, we'll go ahead and remove our lug nut. Again, we'll put the vehicle back into neutral. We'll rotate the axle around to line up the hole for the new wheel stud. Insert the new wheel stud into place. Put the vehicle back into park. Again, we'll thread our lug nut, onto the wheel stud. We'll use our 20mm socket and ratchet to pull the wheel stud into place. Once the head of the wheel stud's against the axle flange, go ahead and remove your lug nut. Then we're going to slide our rotor back into place. And here we're getting ready to put our caliper mounting bracket back on, so we're going to put a little thread lock on the caliper mounting bracket bolts, some thread lock onto the caliper guide pin bolts. Slide the caliper mounting bracket into place. Insert our caliper mounting bracket bolts. The top and the bottom. Then we're going to torque the caliper mounting bracket bolts to 79 foot-pounds. Then we're going to inspect our brake pads to make sure they're still in good shape. We're going to slide them into place. We're going to put a little high temperature caliper grease on the back of the pads. Then we're going to remove the caliper from the bungee cord and slide the caliper into place over the brake pads. Insert our caliper guide pin bolts. Tighten them up by hand, and then with our 14mm socket and ratchet and our 18mm thin wrench. Then we're going to torque these to 25 foot-pounds. Make sure you remove your hose pinch pliers and bleed your brakes. Then you can install your wheel and put the lug nuts into place. Snug them down with your 20mm socket and ratchet. We're going to jack the vehicle back up, remove the jack stand, lower the vehicle back onto the ground, and now torque your lug nuts to the manufacturer's recommended specifications. And be sure to torque your lug nuts in a crisscross pattern. Now reinstall your hubcap. Make sure you line up the valve stem. Be careful not to damage your hubcap. Remove your wheel chocks behind both rear tires.
Well, we hope this video will help you change any broken wheel studs you have on your 2000 Toyota Sienna LE.
Send any comments you may have to comment@teachmeall.com. And as always, thank you for visiting teachmeall.com and have a great day.